I am 72 years old. Before you scroll away, give me 1 minute.
Not because I want views. Because if someone had said this to me 40 years ago, my life would have ended very differently. I built a $200 million company from nothing. No inheritance, no safety net, just obsession, hunger, and a belief that success would fix everything. It didn't. Today, I live alone in a quiet house that's too big and too silent. The walls are filled with awards, framed magazine covers, photos of me shaking hands with powerful people. But there are no family photos, no birthday cards on the fridge, no voices calling my name, no one who needs me. This is not a motivational story. This is a warning. I grew up in a modest American neighborhood in the late 1960s. My father worked long hours at a factory. My mother stayed home and kept the family together. We didn't have much, but we had dinner at the same table every night. We laughed. We argued. We mattered to each other. I remember promising myself one thing as a teenager. I will never struggle like this. I will become successful, no matter what. That promise became my religion. In my 20s, I discovered business. I was good at it, really good. While others were out partying, I was studying markets. While friends were building relationships, I was building systems. I told myself I was being disciplined. People admired me. They called me driven, focused, special. I met my wife when I was 27. She loved my ambition. She believed in me before anyone else did. When our first child was born, I held him and whispered, "I'm doing this for you." That sentence followed me for decades, and it became my greatest lie. The company started small. A cramped office, long nights, cold coffee. I missed dinners, then birthdays, then school events. But every time guilt crept in, I silenced it with logic. This is temporary. This sacrifice will pay off. One day, they'll understand. My wife started eating dinner alone. My kids stopped asking if I'd be home. I noticed, but I didn't stop. Because the numbers were growing. The contracts were bigger. The validation was intoxicating. Success doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in quietly and whispers just a little more. By 40, the company exploded new offices, international expansion, private jets, magazine interviews. People wanted my advice. Strangers respected me more than my own children did. At home, things felt distant. My wife stopped arguing, which I mistook for peace. My kids spoke to me carefully, like I was a visitor. I told myself this was normal, that this is what providing looks like. I bought bigger houses instead of having conversations. I gave expensive gifts instead of my time. I thought money was love in physical form. I was wrong. One night, I came home late again. The house was quiet, too quiet. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "I can't do this alone anymore." That was it. No yelling, no drama, just exhaustion written on paper. I stood there in my tailored suit, holding a 7-figure deal in my briefcase, and realizing I was losing something irreplaceable. But even then, I didn't stop. I told myself I'd fix it after the next milestone, after the next exit, after the next expansion. There is always a next expansion. The divorce was civil, polite, emotionless. My kids stayed with their mother. At first, I called often, then less, then only on holidays. Not because I didn't care, but because every call reminded me of what I chose not to be present for. Distance became easier than accountability. The company crossed $200 million in valuation when I was 56. People congratulated me, threw parties, wrote articles about my sacrifice. No one asks what it cost. That night, I sat alone in a luxury hotel room, staring at city lights, and felt nothing. No joy, no pride, just emptiness. Now I'm 72. My kids are grown. They have lives that don't include me. We exchange polite messages, occasional calls. I'm not their villain, but I'm not their home either. And that hurts more than hatred ever could. Money solved every problem, except the ones that mattered. You can outsource labor, You can automate systems. You can buy convenience, but you cannot buy back time, and you cannot rebuild moments that never happened. If you are young and ambitious, listen carefully. Success is a terrible substitute for presence, and ambition, unchecked, is just another form of addiction. There is a moment every man remembers clearly, not his greatest success, not his biggest win, the moment everything finally collapses. For me, it happened on a Tuesday morning. No headlines, no phone calls, no dramatic scene, just silence. I was 64 years old. The company was running without me by then. Teams, executives, systems I had built so well that my presence was optional. This was the dream, right? I had time now. More money than I could ever spend. Nothing urgent pulling at my attention. So I did what I had told myself I would do one day. I called my son. It rang longer than I expected. When he answered, his voice was polite, careful, distant. We spoke like two professionals catching up at a conference. I asked about his job. He answered briefly. I asked about his life. He said, "It's good." Then there was silence. Not awkward silence. Finished silence. The kind that tells you the conversation has reached its natural end. Before hanging up, he said something that still echoes in my head. "Dad, I have a meeting. I'll talk to you later." He never did. That's when it hit me. I didn't know my own son. I tried to fix it the only way I knew how. I planned a family trip, first-class flights, 5-star resort, everything paid for. I sent the message with confidence. No response for 2 days. When the reply finally came, it was short. "Thanks, but we already have plans." Plans? I wasn't part of them. That night, I walked through my house, slowly. The same house I once believed proved I had won. Every room echoed. I passed the office where I had spent thousands of late nights working instead of listening. I passed framed awards that suddenly felt meaningless. Then I stopped in front of a photo, an old one. My kids, young, smiling, sitting on the floor, building something together. I wasn't in the picture. I realized something terrifying. They didn't lose me suddenly. They lost me slowly. And I let it happen. People think relationships end because of big mistakes. They don't. They end because of small absences, repeated daily. Missed dinners, unanswered questions, promises delayed. I wasn't abusive. I wasn't cruel. I was unavailable. And unavailability is its own kind of abandonment. I tried harder after that. More calls, more messages. But relationships don't work like businesses. You can't scale them back up after years of neglect. You can't fix distance with urgency. Trust doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. And I had none left to offer. One afternoon, I received an invitation. My daughter was getting married. The message was formal. Location, time, dress code. No warmth, no excitement, just information. I attended. I smiled. I congratulated her. I shook hands with people who knew her better than I did. When she hugged me, it was brief, polite, like hugging an uncle you see once a decade. That hug destroyed me because it confirmed what I already knew. I was no longer essential in her life. That night, alone in my hotel room, I finally admitted the truth. I didn't sacrifice for my family. I sacrificed my family. For approval, for identity, for a version of success that never loved me back. Here's the part no one talks about. Ambition doesn't disappear when you win. It just stops rewarding you. The hunger remains. The restlessness remains. But the joy is gone. All that's left is habit and regret. I see young men, now sharp, driven, relentless. They remind me of myself. They say the same things I used to say. I'm doing this for them. Just a few more years. Once I make it, everything will balance out. Life doesn't wait for you to become available. People don't pause their emotional needs until you're done chasing goals. They adapt. They move on. They stop expecting you. And that is the real loss. If I could speak to my younger self, I wouldn't tell him to quit. I'd tell him this: success should support your life, not replace it. Work should fund your relationships, not excuse neglect. Money should buy freedom, not distance. You don't need to choose between ambition and family, but you do need boundaries. And I had none. What I would do differently if I were given one impossible gift, to wake up at 25 again with everything I know now, I would not change my ambition. I would change my rules. Because ambition wasn't my enemy. Blind ambition was. When you're young, you believe success will organize your life. You think once you make it, everything else will fall into place. Family, peace, happiness. But life doesn't work in reverse. You don't build relationships after success. You either build them along the way, or you lose them permanently. That is the first truth I learned too late. Here is the first rule I would live by. Never let work consume all your best hours. I gave my sharpest energy to strangers, my calmest patience to clients, my creativity to meetings, and I gave my family the leftovers, late nights, short answers, a distracted version of myself. Your children don't need your tired body at home. They need your attention while it's still strong. I would cap my workday, not when tasks end, but when life begins. Because no company ever thanked me for missing bedtime stories. Second rule: presence matters more than provision. I believed my responsibility was to provide financially. So I overprovided money and underprovided myself. Children don't remember how much you earned. They remember whether you listened, whether you noticed when something changed, whether you showed up when it mattered. I thought being reliable meant being available financially. I learned too late it meant being available emotionally. Third rule: success without shared memories is hollow. I hit milestones alone. Promotions, expansions, awards. I would walk into empty houses with great news and no one waiting. Victories are meant to be shared. If no one is celebrating with you, you didn't really win. I would now choose fewer wins if it meant more people beside me when I achieved them. Fourth rule: set boundaries before life sets them for you. I never said no. Not to investors, not to clients, not to opportunities. Every yes at work was a no at home. But life always collects its debt. And when it does, it doesn't negotiate. Divorce, distance, estrangement. Those were the boundaries I refused to set. So life enforced them brutally. Here is something no one tells you. Your family will adapt to your absence. At first, they wait. Then they adjust. Then they stop expecting. By the time you're ready to return, they've learned to live without you. That adjustment is irreversible. Fifth rule: stop using the future to justify the present. One day is a dangerous word. One day I'll slow down. One day I'll be present. One day I'll fix this. One day never arrived. Life is lived in now, not someday. If your life requires sacrifice forever, then it's not a phase, it's a choice. I would also redefine success, not by valuation, not by revenue, not by public recognition, but by simple questions. Who can call me anytime? Who feels safe telling me the truth? Who would sit with me if I lost everything tomorrow? Those answers matter more than numbers. Here's the hardest lesson. You can be respected by the world and irrelevant at home. You can be admired publicly and missed privately. You can be powerful everywhere except where it matters most. And no amount of success fixes that. If you're listening to this while building something, a company, a career, a dream, this is not me telling you to stop. This is me telling you to look up. Check who's still standing beside you. Check who's waiting. Check who you're slowly training to live without you. Because regret doesn't arrive suddenly. It arrives quietly, years later, when the phone stops ringing. The life I have now, this is where stories usually end with redemption, a reunion, a second chance, a late life miracle. This one doesn't, because real life doesn't always offer clean endings. I wake up early now, not because I have to, but because there is nothing waiting for me in the day. No urgent calls, no meetings, no one needing my advice before breakfast. The silence used to feel like freedom. Now it feels like consequence. I make coffee for one. I sit by the window. I watch other people live their lives. Parents walking children to school. Couples arguing gently, then laughing. Grandparents holding small hands. Scenes I once believed I was too busy for. Scenes I would trade everything to be part of now. People assume I'm lonely because I'm old. That's not true. I'm lonely because I trained everyone around me to stop needing me. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unnecessary. I speak to my children occasionally. We are polite. They tell me about their work. I listen carefully, like a student. I want to ask deeper questions, but I don't want to intrude. I don't want to reopen wounds I caused by absence. So I keep my voice calm, grateful, careful. That is the distance I earned. I've learned something painful. You don't get closure for the years you were missing. There is no apology big enough to replace presence. No explanation strong enough to undo neglect. Forgiveness may come. Closeness may not. And that is something you must be prepared to live with. I give away most of my money now. Not out of guilt, out of clarity. Money feels heavy when you know it cannot buy back what you need. I fund schools, scholarships, programs for young families. Not because it fixes my past, but because maybe it can soften someone else's future. Sometimes people ask me if I'm proud of what I built. I pause before answering. Because yes, I built something impressive, but I didn't build a life that grew with me. I built a monument, and monuments are lonely places. Here is the hardest truth I've learned at 72. Your life doesn't collapse all at once. It erodes, one missed moment at a time. And by the time you notice the damage, the foundation is already gone. If you're still listening, I want you to do something uncomfortable. Imagine your life 30 years from now. Not your success. Not your bank account. Your dinner table. Who is sitting there? Who feels safe with you? Who would answer your call without hesitation? If the picture is unclear, that's not a future problem. That's a present warning. I used to believe legacy was what you leave behind. Now I know it's who still wants to walk beside you. Let me leave you with this. Ambition is powerful, but it has no brakes. If you don't slow it intentionally, it will run over everything meaningful, including you. I don't tell this story to shame you. I tell it because regret is quiet and motivation is loud. And the loudest voices usually don't tell you the truth. If someone had told me this early, I might have listened. So I'm telling you now. Success is not evil. Money is not the problem. Neglect is to neglect always sins the bill later. I can't change my past, but you still can. Close this video. Text someone you love. Show up where it matters. Not tomorrow. Not after the next milestone. Now, because one day you'll sit in a quiet house and realize the cost of everything you chose. And by then, it may be too late.